Hey guys, I'm Lexie Smith, a mom, multi-hyphenate entrepreneur, founder of the PR Bar Inc. coaching platform, and CEO of Growth Mode Agency, a PR and communications agency for brands in growth mode. In my career, I've had the privilege of guiding countless brands, ingenious publicists, eager students, and ambitious entrepreneurs on their PR journeys. I've danced with the giants and nurtured startups, directed in-house PR departments, lent my expertise to boards, and spread knowledge across universities nationwide. Throughout all of this, I've seen our industry change and evolve while simultaneously proving that some timeless fundamentals remain unshaken. This show takes you behind the scenes of the world of media, marketing, and PR, aiming to teach you all the new tips, tricks, and how the best and brightest are achieving success over sips. Now it's time to grow. Welcome to the show. Danielle C. Belton is the current editor-in-chief of HuffPost, where she led the Pulitzer Prize-winning newsroom to profitability in 2021 after her first year in leadership. In her 3-year tenure, she has improved overall newsroom diversity and relaunched HuffPost's Legacy Voices brands, including adding a new vertical, Indigenous Voices, one of the first mainstream digital media offerings for Indigenous people. Prior to joining HuffPost, she was editor-in-chief of the leading Black digital publication, The Root. Belton grew the award-winning site's traffic by 300% within her first year leading its newsroom. A 20-year veteran of journalism, blogging, and writing, Belton is also known for being one of the first Black women to lead a writer's room in late night, where she was head writer for BET's talk show Don't Sleep in 2012. She was also the creator and author of the popular former politics and pop culture weblog, The Black Snob. Danielle, I am truly, truly honored to have the opportunity to host this conversation today, and I know I speak on behalf of all of the listeners in this community. Thank you for your time. With that said, I always start the show with something a little less serious, and that's, what do you like to do outside of work for fun?
Oh, sure. So, I have a lot of interests beyond journalism. I used to sing in a jazz band back when I was a reporter in California. So I love music. I used to play the piano as a kid. I can't play anymore, but I still enjoy music immensely. I love art. I originally wanted to be a cartoonist as a kid. And I draw in my free time as well. I always wanted to be an illustrator. I always wanted to have like a cartoon strip in a newspaper, but then newspapers decided to go away on me, so that didn't happen. And I also really enjoy dancing. I'm not good at choreography though, which is why I never did it professionally or even attempted. It takes me at least a week to pick up choreography, and it's like most dancers, you need to pick it up in like 5 minutes, and I just am not capable. And I also love cooking. I even have a little food Insta
Oh,
um, called Comfort Kitchen by DB, and I post the end results of recipes that I find online of different things that I enjoy cooking. I really love food, so yeah.
my team's going to be very excited. The producer of this show and my account manager, huge foodies. I think they actually both have their own little foodie Instagrams too.
Oh,
We'll
nice.
include that in the show notes, guys. Go give it a follow. You're a woman of all the arts. You have food, singing, literal art, and all the things. I love that. Where's home base?
I live in Brooklyn, New York.
You're in Brooklyn, New York. So that's a great hub for all those things for sure.
Yeah.
And but you were in California. When you were in California, where were you at?
I was in Bakersfield.
Oh,
It is
okay.
in Kern County, in the desert, and it's about 2 hours outside of Los Angeles.
Gotcha. I'm in Ventura. Did you ever hear of Ventura?
I am familiar with Ventura, but I've never been.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, people who listen to the show, we're about an hour north of LA. That's how I have to describe it. But I'm familiar with Bakersfield, mostly through just driving through it to get to other places.
Yes.
But yeah.
They have an
Um,
In-N-Out burger that's just right off the highway. So
that's
yes.
true. which miraculously is there's still always a, maybe not miraculously, a massive line, even though you
Oh,
feel like
I have never been to an In-N-Out that had a short line. It's
very
not a
true.
thing that
Very
exists.
true. They do something right. Okay. Okay. So guys, I read a condensed version of Danielle's bio at the top of the show, but Danielle, what I'd like to do now is provide a bit more color and review what I call your career cliff notes. So whatever you want to focus on is fine here, but walk us through what came before today. How did you become the editor-in-chief of the HuffPost?
Well, I always preface this with I basically chose the hardest path possible to get here. It's very non-traditional, but it's non-traditional because all traditional means of getting here kind of like fell apart when I graduated from college. So around the time that I finished getting my degree in mass communications in Southern Illinois was when the web really blew up. And so it was like so many publications were trying to adapt to this new online environment. And my school called itself preparing me for it by giving me a degree in electronic journalism, which is what they called it back then. But it was really backpack journalism where it's like you learn how to shoot and you learn video and you learn how to write. You basically learn how to do everything, so you just don't know where you're going to get your job. And so I went into local newspapers, one because it was the one of the few journalism jobs that I could get where I could still like take care of myself. I know you're not, this won't come as a surprise to you. Journalism doesn't pay very much, and it pays almost nothing in the very beginning. And so a job with benefits is great, and local newspapers had that. And so I went into newspapers, even though initially I wanted to go into television. And I really flourished there. My first job was in Midland, Texas, at the Midland Reporter Telegram. And then my second job, I was at for over 4 years in the Central Valley at the Bakersfield, California newspaper, which I loved. And I did literally every job you could possibly have at the Californian. I was an education reporter, a general assignment reporter, a columnist, a blogger. I took photos for them. I drew illustrations for them. I was entertainment reporter and a features writer. So in those 5 years, I was really aggressive.
All the hats.
Yeah. And then around 2007, I left the newspaper just before it started massive downsizing because Craigslist came to town and destroyed all the local newspapers. That was pretty much the end of my local newspaper career because too many outlets had to slash their budgets and get rid of huge swaths of their staff just to survive. And so I moved back home to St. Louis, Missouri to try to figure out what to do next with my life. At the same time, I was dealing with mental health issues, and so like I didn't even know if I was going to stay in journalism. I ended up like working at a Macy's folding sweaters in a dying mall for a little while there. Out of all that, I decided to start my own website, the Black Snob. This was around 2007. And in January 2008, Barack Obama, who was then a senator, won Iowa in his pursuit of the presidency. And I was so inspired. And I was like, wow, I really miss my old column. And I was like, wait, I have a blog. I'll just publish something on there. And it really took off. It really resonated with people and it blew up rather quickly. I think in like a year and a half, like I had over like 2 million visitors to my little website, talking about my little ideas and my thoughts about politics and entertainment and culture and all that fun stuff. And so it really blew up for me. I could not figure out how to make money off of it. I'm not good at that. But I am good at writing. And so I was able to build quite an audience. And from there, I was able to get so many different jobs. I was a social media editor for a racial justice nonprofit, a social media editor for an anti-war nonprofit. I ran a now defunct website that doesn't exist anymore, but I got its most traffic it ever got in the history of that website by writing about a congressman that was caught up in a sex scandal. And from there, I moved to New York briefly in 2012. That's when I was the late night talk show writer on Don't Sleep, which was a TV show that BET had created to kind of like compete in the late night market. And its host was TJ Holmes at the time. And that was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, the show only lasted 4 months.
Mm.
So I was back on the hunt for a job again. I moved back home to St. Louis briefly, and I forgot to mention somewhere in there I moved to Washington D.C. I left Missouri like around around 2009 and moved to Washington, D.C.
Side
But
note.
and then from DC, I went to New York, and then
Okay.
from New York back to St. Louis, and then from St. Louis, I moved back to DC, where I worked as a freelancer and had multiple different jobs until the most productive of those jobs, I was freelancing for The Root. And lo and behold, after I got sick of freelancing, I called up the then managing editor of The Root, Lynn Pitts, and said, "Hey, I really enjoy writing for you. Can I have a job?" Like I just straight up asked her for a job. So I'm tired of freelancing. I need health insurance. And so she was like, "Sure." Now, long story short, well, the long story long in this case, but I've been trying to get a job with The Root since 2009. And so at this point, this is like around 2014. No, 2015. It was 2015 when I called her up that spring and asked for a job. And so she said, "Well, we're making some changes, let me call you back in like a month or so." She calls me back 2 days later. Their associate editor just quit to take a job with the Washington Post, and she asked me if I would like the job. And I said yes. Um, I loved that job. I hit the ground running pretty hard. I did a huge what was it, like a 5-part series on Black Lives Matter, and I hired a bunch of different writers. And by the end of my first year there, though, like I was dealing with depression at the time, so I thought I was doing a terrible job.
Mm.
Like, it didn't matter like what I accomplished. I was so miserable that I just felt like nothing mattered. And so when my bosses said they wanted to meet with me, I just assumed that I was being fired. And then they told me they wanted to promote me and make me the new managing editor. And I was just like, oh, this is shocking. I had no idea. And they tell me all about the job. They give me the big sell, and they explain to me that the managing editor is leaving because, well, she was tired, one. And the job was really, really stressful and very labor intensive. And I only had one question, which was, is there money? Because at the time I was broke. And I think I was only making like, I don't know, 60 grand living in Washington, D.C., which I still don't know how I lived off of, but I did it. And lo and behold, there was money. And so therefore I took the job. Now, I had always wanted to be editor in chief of The Root. I had no idea what the job was going to entail. It was a dream job for me. And so I really threw my all into it. I became editor in chief around 2016. Well, I became managing editor in 2016, and I got promoted to editor in chief in 2017. But in 2017, we radically changed the direction of the site. We changed the voice, the style, the attitude, and it just became much more irreverent and funny and in your face, but still with really strong journalistic principles and values. And it took off. The traffic grew by 300%. The site got a lot of notoriety, like we were a joke on SNL, and we were a crossword puzzle answer in the New York Times crossword. I was like, we did it, we made it. I remember one month we hit over like 20 million visitors, unique visitors, which was huge for a Black website. And so, or any website really these days. But yeah, it was a miraculous time, and loved that job immensely. I did it for about 6 years, and then the opportunity at HuffPost came along. And by that point, I built a pretty solid reputation for myself. I went through about 15, 16 rounds of interviews with
Wow.
BuzzFeed to get the role because they had just acquired HuffPost. And lo and behold, I was the last woman standing. So they made me editor in chief.
I'm really having to rein myself in right now because I have so many micro questions throughout that entire journey. You're now the editor in chief at HuffPost. This is a
Yes.
very convoluted, big question. But what does
Yes.
the average day look like for you in this role?
Oh, my day is mostly spent in meetings. Alas, that's the the truth about management. It is all meetings. It is meetings about the content, meetings about the staff, meetings about budgets, meetings about HR, meetings about the future of the organization, meetings about revenue, meetings that are preparation for more meetings. Check-ins. I do a lot of check-ins on a daily basis. And every now and then when I'm lucky, I have time to actually write something. And I'm always really excited to do actual journalism because I really don't get to do that very much anymore. But I get up mad early. Like I probably wake up most mornings around 5:30, immediately make coffee after I brush my teeth and wash my face. And I usually start work around like 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When are
And go.
you done? Are you ever done? Do you sleep?
I do sleep. I usually try to wrap things up by 4 or 5 p.m.
Okay. Okay. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I do sleep.
You do sleep. That is good. I highly suggest people do. So,
Yeah.
okay. So again, clearly everyone listening probably has 5,000 questions. When I was sitting today, not today, earlier preparing for what we were going to talk about, it's hard. Like, where do we want to go? And so I turned to a question that I think a lot of journalists resonate to with what do my listeners want to hear? And this is where we're headed. Okay. So, a lot of people who listen to this show, we have a lot of people in the PR industry, we have a lot of people in the media industry, overly simplified, are scared about the state of the industry. So I did my research and I was reading through your Substack, which will also, guys, will provide a link to that in the show note. Highly suggest signing up. And also, major shout out to your use of Giphies and memes. You're a girl after my own heart there. But I pulled out some quotes from one of your articles that we're going to dive into. So, for everyone's reference, if you want to go look at it and read the whole thing, which I highly suggest you do, it's titled Every Year in Journalism is a Marathon where towards the end I can barely walk. Which, side note, thank you for your honesty and your heart and your humor throughout the piece. I really appreciated that. So, bear with me. This is what we're going to do. I've pulled 3 quotes and they're going to lead us to give us context to my question. So, first quote, and this is quote from Danielle, not from me. So, from the Substack. Quote, you could argue the revenue model for journalism has been in shambles since the mid 2000s when magazines and other print publications started collapsing. Next quote, I feel like the entire media news entertainment industry is riding deep on the struggle bus after a tough 2023. Next, I'm looking forward to 2024 in journalism, even if the industry is in shambles. So here's where I want to start. From your point of view, what is most, this is a big question again, negatively impacting our industry in recent years? And we can go as high level or deep as you want here.
Oh, the biggest problem in journalism are greedy people who buy media companies and don't know what they're doing.
Okay. Care to elaborate?
Sure. So a big problem with media is that it's not like I always tell writers and editors and people who actually do the work, it's not you. There's nothing you are doing wrong as a reporter, an editor, an audience editor, social media expert, graphic artist, photographer. You're not the problem. You're
Okay.
creating wonderful content that's stellar journalism that people need and want to read. The problem is you have management structures who believe that they should be billionaires
Mm,
based off of journalism. Now, journalism does not make people rich. It just doesn't. Historically, it's always been a public good to own a media company where you understand that the news might not always make money, but you have another business that basically pays for the news. And so it really wasn't until the advent of CNN where people decided that, oh, the news division needs to make money now. And a lot of people don't realize this, but like in print media, advertising was not the primary source of revenue for most print, like for most newspapers. It was the classified section because there was no other place to post jobs or sell all your stuff or sell a house or whatever. Like if you wanted to see that, you got your local newspaper. And once Craigslist came around and the internet, everything just be posted online for free, that's what murdered your local newspaper because they no longer had that regular revenue from the classified section, which was the real business of the newspaper, was selling those classified ads. And that was paying for everything else. And the digital model is even more fraught because we never even had a classified section. We've just been totally just living off of ads, whether it's programmatic or direct sales or whatever. Now, you can make enough money in programmatic and direct sales and partnerships or whatever to basically cover your costs. Like, you can cover your costs, you can pay people a decent wage, you can pay people a living wage, you can keep the lights on. It's doable. People do it every day. The problem is you have something like the people like who own Vice, for example, who decide they want to make a ton of money and they want their investors to make a ton of money. And it's not really about the product or the staff or the brand anymore. It's just about a bust down model where we're trying to get as much money out of this thing as possible to reward ourselves and give ourselves big corporate bonuses and live this jet set lifestyle. And then when we can't get any more money out of it because we've abused it so much and it was overvalued in the first place, because why is a digital news site worth $1 billion? You know it's not. And then they just walk away from it. You just fire the staff and there's no money left to like pull out of it and say like, oh, journalism doesn't work. Well, no, it doesn't work if you're greedy. It works perfectly fine. Like, you can pay yourself a decent wage. You can pay your people a decent wage with programmatic and advertising revenue. The problem is people get greedy. They want to be Jeff Bezos. You're not going to be Jeff Bezos selling a newspaper. You're just not.
Did you know that I send out a community newsletter roundup every Tuesday, chocked full of resources, media kit downloads, journalist contact information, event invites, visibility opportunities? Basically, if you're not on the list, hit pause and sign up. It is super simple. All you gotta do is go to theprbarinc.com/newsworthy. That link is in the show notes too. Okay, back to the show. Okay, so are we all screwed, or is there a solution or call to action here that this, us not at the top can do to kind of help combat this?
Well, there's a few options. One, people who lead news organizations need to actually care about news. They can't just be revenue people who only care about money and making themselves rich. So there has to be a rethinking in who ends up in the C-suite at these companies. And that's all media companies. That's not just digital publications. That is Paramount Global, that is Netflix, that is everybody and their grandmother. Because there's this idea that somehow DEI or diversity is like the problem, which is like ludicrous, because almost all these organizations are run by white men. And almost all of them are going through layoffs right now. And almost all of them, they've like trashed their entire business model. And so for me, it's just like, maybe this isn't working. Like, maybe we should like promote from the lower ranks of people who actually know how things work, who deal with the day in, day out of the audience and the writers and the editors and the producers, and someone who's actually made content themselves before. And maybe those people should be in charge because they actually understand how the business works and what doesn't. Because that's what I am. Like, I was a reporter. I was a social media editor. I was a photographer and a graphic artist and a copy editor, and pretty much every job you could have in journalism. And so I'm not operating on the mindset of like that I'm expecting to be a billionaire out of this. Like, I'm expecting to create a thriving newsroom that supports its staff and pays people enough money that they can live their lives. Like, I'm not in it for the glory of the shareholder. So we need more people in leadership who understand what is at stake and actually value journalism. So that's number one. The other option is we need more models of news companies that are led by the people who make the news. So like, for example, when I was at The Root, one of our sister websites was Deadspin, and Deadspin's staff all quit en masse in protest of the leadership at the time of the company that owned us. And those staffers created their own publication called Defector. And it's a staff-run publication. It's led and run by the journalists, and they managed to become profitable, I think, like within like a year or two. And it was through a subscriber model because they had so many readers who respected and loved what they did when they were at Deadspin, and those readers literally followed them to Defector and continue to support their journalism to this day. So that is the other option, is just for like employee-run media outlets where it is the journalists themselves who are running the organization. Because again, you can totally make enough money to pay your staff if you're not greedy. Like it's just not rocket science.
Yeah. A kind of follow-up question on to the first point first that I
Yeah.
have. So BuzzFeed clearly did something right in terms of this because you're sitting in a position of editor in chief. Why do you think like they got it through their head? Like how do we, it's such a big question, right? But how do we reach the people who are making those decisions to, like HuffPost, do that, affect the change?
Well, BuzzFeed is kind of unique in the sense that the CEO is the founder. So he has his heart and his skin and his finances in this game. He helped build this. And so therefore he wants to see it survive and live on and thrive and be successful. And so for better or for worse, he's all in. So this isn't somebody who is going to be like, I'm just looking to flip this thing and make $1 billion. Because he could have done that years ago. BuzzFeed could have been bought by Disney years ago, and he could have made a big payday and walked away from all of it. But he didn't do that because he does truly believe in what he's trying to create and in the mission. So because it's such a mission-driven company, and because the CEO is the founder and is the one who begat all this and believes in it, he's less inclined to just purely ego-driven decisions. Like he wants to see his business to be successful. And
Yeah.
so he knew that, I got to go outside of my network to find people, and I have to be open to new ideas, and I have to be able to pivot and not get so married to one idea or another idea that I can't make a decision that's best for my organization. So like BuzzFeed was a natural fit for me. I've worked in a lot of places, as my resume can attest. I think at one point, I think I changed jobs literally like every year to 2 years. And most places in media are kind of terrible. Like either the management doesn't care about the workers, or you've got private equity involved and they just want to make a bunch of money and they also don't care about the workers. And I feel really privileged in that the last two work environments of the two biggest jobs I've ever had, I was working for primarily people who do genuinely like give a crap.
Right.
Like do really care about being a good media company. Like prior to the current ownership at the Root, we were owned by Univision. And so, I mean, a lot of people had their jokes about Univision or whatever, but Univision was a great steward. Like they totally invested in the Root. The staff grew to the size it grew under Univision. I was able to get my writers paid. They supported my ideas. And in return, like I said, I grew traffic by 300%. So it's just, I felt lucky to work for a place that like actually cared. And the thing is with Univision at the time, we were Gawker, the old Gawker websites had been purchased by Univision, and so we were all folded underneath them. Like the former Gawker sites used to write like critical articles about Univision. They would go in on our parent company, and other companies couldn't have survived that, and Univision just kind of looked at it like, well, yeah, we'd rather you not write about us, but like long as you're doing your jobs and no one got fired, like it wasn't the end of the world. We all survived it and we thrived in it to a certain extent. And then they sold it to private equity, and then that became a whole different ball game. But so I say all this to say there are people who genuinely do care. And so it's important to do your research when you're looking for a job in media, to know the difference between a company that's going to treat you like a cog in a wheel and a company that's going to value the work that you do because it's mission driven.
Okay, I think that's a fantastic call out and call to action. We have, we kind of have two layers here, right? There's a greater system and industry call to action for greater leadership. We also have some other layers for those within the media industry. What about consumers? The readers? Is there anything readers can do to support the industry at large, in your opinion?
Oh, yeah, there's tons of things readers can do. The most important is to actually read. So I greatly value all of those clicks. Every time you read an article, like it helps that publication because almost all of us have programmatic ads and all our ads are counted against our traffic. So by reading, you are great. You're wonderful. Now, if you want to go beyond reading, other ways you could help, you could share the articles with your friends. HuffPost, just like The Guardian and a few other publications, we do encourage readers that if they have some pocket change and they want to help out and support our journalism, you can donate. You can give money to our publication so we can continue to offer free journalism for all. And so that means a lot. And you don't even have to give a lot. Like if you just want to give like $2 a month, you're a rock star. We love you. We'll take it. Because it's necessary for us to do our jobs. Other things that you can do, write a journalist. Like if you really like something that someone produced, we're so used to getting hate mail. Like a matter of fact, negativity is like 90% of our public encounters. And so it's nice when if you're actually touched by the work that you have seen, that you have read, that you have watched, if you actually take the time to seek out that writer or producer on their social media or via their email, like you will make their life. Like they will be so happy because they get so much heat and very little praise from the public. So that means a lot. And I would also suggest that when you see a news outlet that is doing the work, that means they're being responsible. When there's an error, they correct it. They're being faithful stewards of journalism and doing their best to get the news out to the best of their ability. It's important that not only do you read that publication and share that publication and maybe once a year write a nice note to a writer or even donate, what's even more important is to support policies, laws, and politicians who believe in a free press.
Okay.
So if you like having a free press and you enjoy the work that journalists do, show your true dedication to it by showing your dedication to our constitutional right to be able to disseminate this information. There are a lot of people who seem to have endless money who enjoy suing news organizations with the hopes of suing them out of existence because they don't like that we're critical. They don't like that we might say something that's not good about them. And, they're always accusing other people of being snowflakes, but I think that's some real snowflake behavior to like spend your like billions of dollars to try to put newspapers out of business because they might write something mean about you. And so that's what we're up against.
Yeah.
We're up against a concerted, organized effort to just wrap countless publications up in lawsuits in hopes that eventually we just run out of money. So yeah, it's really
Small hill to climb is what I'm hearing. Very small, minor things, minor hurdles, right?
yeah. So that's why it's just really important for people to be vocal about their support of the free press. So yes.
And thank you for taking the time to share your point of view. Personally, I feel like the only thing that I've been looking for ways to figure out how to get involved in saving, even though I'm on the PR side more so. I started my undergrad in journalism, and that's a huge part of my heart. And so hearing ways that from whatever seat you're sitting in, you can help has become like one of my little missions this year with this show. So thank you for offering your perspective. I'm going to do two quick shifts here, meaning like pivot change, and it's going to feel abrupt because here we are. So the next abrupt pivot, I want to take us back to your role as editor-in-chief. Now, an editor-in-chief's role is going to be different based on the size of the outlet, right? So an editor-in-chief at a local paper with a staff of 4 is probably very different than you. You already shared you spend much of your day in meetings. At your role, do you still get pitched?
Oh, all the time.
You do. Okay.
all the time.
So then you qualify for what I like to do in the show with any member of the media who gets pitched, which is like a rapid fire preferential section. So no right or wrong answer. This is just highlighting you and what you prefer. So here we go. All right. First question. Is there a day of the week you prefer to be pitched?
Monday
Monday. Time of day?
morning,
Morning. Are you pro pleasantries or just get straight to the point?
straight to the point.
Are you okay with follow-ups?
Yes, if you are sure that what you have has true value to our readers. It is annoying to get 15 follow-ups about something that obviously you don't read my publication and you're just blindly pitching me.
Okay. What about this is because this is continuing to trend, and I've actually had very different responses to this. Social media DMs. Are you open to being pitched in the DMs?
No.
Okay. And then assets. How important are assets for you up front? So photos, videos, affiliate links, or is that something that can be handled down the line?
It just kind of depends, but with a lot of things, this might be your one shot, so you should have everything already put together.
Okay. And then as editor in chief, do you have like a beat or are you just all the beats for the whole paper?
I am all the beats.
All the
I
beats.
get
So all the things.
I get it all.
Okay. Now, last question. Besides you, is there a title you would most suggest people pitch at an outlet like the HuffPost?
Oh, I would suggest you stick along like specific editors in the senior editor ranks who cover specific beats. So, like if you have entertainment and culture content, you should pitch the entertainment and culture editor. You should only pitch me if you can't find who this editor is. And in that case, you should just email me and ask me who is the entertainment and culture editor I would like to pitch them. And I will more than likely just connect you to them and allow you to do whatever you need to do. Part of the problem, I think, with a lot of PR people, they don't actually pay attention to who they're pitching because they just get a list. And once your name is on that list, they just like blindly send you things. So they don't even realize they're sending the editor in chief of the publication like stuff that I can't cover this. Like
Yeah.
I'm not, but I can like kick it down to somebody else. And so everyone needs to update their list. That is like, please check your list and know who you're pitching. There's nothing more annoying to me when people send me pitches and they'll say, Danielle, can the Roots cover this? And I'm like, I am at HuffPost now. Update your list. I mean, clearly you updated it because you got my HuffPost email. So paying attention to detail means a lot. I can overlook some things, but like other things like that, I just directly to trash.
It's funny. I'm clearly like small potatoes, but because I have a show, right? Somewhere, somehow I got on some sort of lists. So I get pitched alcohol and cannabis products. I think because Pitchin and Sippin so
Oh,
freaking much. And I like kindly just want to, because I'm pro publicist, right? I'm like, can you like slow down and realize how like this, there's not even 1 ounce of this was not worth your time. Anyways, I've started to get that in recent years, and I have a newfound empathy from this seat. I'm like, wow, you're so off. Um, Speaking of the name of the show, we always wrap up with this signature question. So we've talked pitchin'. What can we find you sipping? So, what's your favorite beverage? It can be alcoholic or non-alcoholic.
that's such a good question. Because I'm always on a diet, like my main drink is water, but that's boring. Probably my favorite drink in the whole entire world is limonade. I will drink any kind of limonade. Limonade infused with another fruit sounds like absolutely amazing. Limonade with tequila is just basically a margarita. Like I love limonade.
My father is famous for his margarita recipe, and like the key ingredient is one of those frozen concentrated limeade cans, which are actually very hard to find, at least where I live. I have gone to multiple grocery stores in search of these before. So that's funny. When you say that, I immediately thought of margaritas. But
Yeah, they're easier to find in the South and the Midwest. When you get to the West Coast and the East Coast, There's just tons of types of foods that just don't exist here.
Yeah, yeah, it becomes more sparse. So, Danielle, if people want to connect with you further, where should they go? Should it be your Substack? Should it be a LinkedIn? Should it be an Instagram? Where do you prefer our listeners head?
You can hit me up on Instagram. My Instagram is my last name first. It is Belton Danielle. That is the same on Threads because I gave up on Twitter/X. And so you can see me on Threads at Belton Danielle. And I'm on LinkedIn. I respond to emails on LinkedIn. So feel free to hit me up there. I'm Danielle Belton there. And yeah, follow my Substack. You can email me at HuffPost. So yeah,
All the
I'm
things.
people.
Follow her foodie and stuff, right?
Yeah.
We'll include all the links, guys. Danielle, thank you so much for your time. I know this is one of probably 500 meetings you have today. So, I will cut this short and be respectful of your time. But you guys, thank you for listening to the Pitchin and Sippin podcast. Hey guys, if you are enjoying the Pitchin and Sippin podcast, please do me a huge favor and leave a review wherever you are listening. If you want to connect with me to learn more about the PR Bar Inc., you can do so on Instagram at @thePRBar_Inc., or you can check out my website at theprbarinc.com. Cheers!